The Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Kuf Lamed Zayin that he talks about how many psukim needs to be read for each aliyah. So he says on a day that we have 3 aliyot, let's say on a Monday and Thursday and Shabbat by Mincha, you cannot read less than 10 psukim. And a pasuk of Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Lemor is included in the 10. But he says that if the inyan is finished less than 10 psukim, let's say by Parshat Amalek is only 9 psukim, then it's Shaper Dami. So it says that the Parsha of Vayavo Amalek is only 9 psukim. So minimum psukim for each aliyah is 3 psukim for each aliyah is a minimum, and one of them is going to get 4, right? Because it's 3, 3, 4 is going to be 10. But if the inyan finishes by the end of the 9 psukim, like by Vayavo Amalek, then you only have to read 9. That's the psak of the Shulchan Aruch. However, the minhag Chamavidia brings down that by Vayavo Amalek, which is what we read on morning of Purim, we repeat the last pasuk a second time in order to get the 10 psukim. So we always have basically every single reading that we do, we always have 10 psukim. However, if the Chazan didn't do it, you will see still Yosef. He didn't do it because it's like the Shulchan Aruch Paskins over here. 9 is already enough if it's Salika Inyan, if it's the Inyan is finished. But generally, we always have a minimum of 10 psukim. Every time we take out the Sefer Torah, we have a minimum of 3 aliyot, and we have a minimum of 10 psukim, which means that one aliyah is going to be 3 as a minimum, another aliyah will be 3, and then one of the aliyot is going to be 4. We'll discuss this more in the coming days.
Good morning, what the Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Kuf Lamed Tet, במקום שנהגו שעולה עצמו קורא בכל רם, ואם לא סידר תחילה הפרשה פעמיים ושלוש, then we're going to לא יעלה. Places they used to have a minhag where everybody that would get an aliyah, he would read the aliyah. You would get the aliyah, and you would also read that aliyah, that portion. And if that's the makom, if that's the minhag in the place that we're talking about, if the person didn't prepare it 2 or 3 times before, then he shouldn't go up because he's not going to be able to read it properly, right? Someone who he shouldn't, he has to be misader. He has to misader the parasha 2 or 3 times. This is another reason why we do shnai mikra, right? The HaTorah is just in case a person gets the aliyah, he already went through it twice, and therefore when he gets the aliyah, it's not going to be like foreign to him. He'll be able to do it. Again, makom shechazan koreh utzich l'sader tchila, in a place where you have, let's say, a bal koreh, then he has to be l'sader tchila. Right? Even if you have like a very seasoned bal koreh, a person who's been reading for many years, he should at least look it over and make sure not to make any mistakes, and that has to be done. That has to be done before getting up and reading getting up and reading the Torah. Now, our minhag is that the Chazan usually reads on behalf of everybody, and therefore he will be the one that I have to prepare before going up. And the Mishnah Berurah mentions that a person can do Shnai Mikra. It's considered also part of the cheshbon of the preparation, and that's like we mentioned before. That's the idea. That could be one of the reasons why we do Shnai Mikra, because it used to be that we used to get the aliyot would read, so that would be like a preparation for the reading. Again, you have to do Shnai Mikra regardless. Now that you're not reading, okay, so now Shnai Mikra doesn't go anywhere. Still do Shnai Mikra, right? But that was one of that's just a help for this halacha, that a person that was doing it, then you can be ready to read it if you would be called upon to read the Sefer Torah. The Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Kuf Mem Vav, אסור לצאת ולהניח ספר תורה כשהוא פתוח, אבל בין גר ולגר ושבר דמי. A person is not allowed to walk out of the Bet Knesset when the Sefer Torah is open, meaning when it's being read. The Mishnah Berurah says there's a pasuk that says, "V'osvei Hashem yichlu." Someone who leaves Hashem will perish. Chas v'shalom. And the Targum is the fek u'deshavek oraita the Hashem yesha tetzun. Okay, and even if there's 10 people listening to the Sefer Torah without him, and even if you already heard the Sefer Torah, which means even if I'm just walking into a minyan and they happen to be reading the Sefer Torah, I prayed nets, and now I'm at the regular minyan, and I prayed nets, and I walked in, and they're in the middle of the Kriyat Torah, I'm not allowed to leave, even if I already heard Kriyat Torah. Kol shekein, if a person is there for the minyan listening to the Kriyat Torah. So it's a very, very serious sin, and it's asur to leave during the time when the Sefer Torah is being read. Between aliyah, between one aliyah and the other, then it's permitted to walk out. Now the Mishnah Berurah over here understands that this is only true when you have obviously 10 people that are going to be there without you, and also if a person already heard Kriyat Shema, and this is only, the Mishnah Berurah says, only permitted in a tzorach gadol, meaning in a very pressing need. A person can go out in between aliyot, or let's say he needs to go to the restroom, right? And this is only if you already heard Kriyat HaTorah. That's according to the Mishnah Berurah. According to Chama Vadia, he takes the Shulchan Aruch more literally. That being gaver legaver shaper dami, that it's permitted to go between gaver legaver, and even if it's not such a pressing need. He says it has to be done ba'akarai, in not in a kavua state. A person cannot just walk out, in a kavut state. But if he needs to attend to something, let's say it's a very important phone call, he doesn't want to answer the phone in the shul, right? Which is obviously the more appropriate thing, not to answer the phone in the shul. His wife is calling him. His wife is 9 months pregnant, and he has to see, what's going on. He has to go outside. Between gaver legaver, you can take the phone call. Let's say our person needs to use the restroom, so that's akrai. It's not a kavut state. That's the way. But there are poskim, like we mentioned, the Mishnah Berurah. There are other poskim that hold that this is mamash. It's not so pashut to leave at all, even between gaver legaver. So it should only be done. It should only be done in a more serious situation, and in a scenario where it's not going to be done in a kavut type of way. Once in a while, it's if it's necessary, it's necessary. But while the Sefer Torah is being read, it's isur chamor, and it's not allowed to be done. We'll continue. There's one more point, but we'll mention it next time.